Oldest daughter, my son-in-law, my future, my past, my present, and my audiences. When Judy Garland died at just 47, the world mourned a legend, but behind the tributes was a startling reality. Despite decades of success, she left behind no fortune for her family. It didn't make sense. She had starred in major productions, launched comebacks, and remained a sought-after performer. Yet her final years were filled with unstable relationships, financial struggles, and deals that seemed to push her further into trouble. As the truth emerged, it became clear that Garland's story wasn't just tragic. It was far more complicated than anyone realized. Judy Garland didn't exactly stumble into show business. She was born into it, with both parents working as vaudeville performers. Her arrival on June 10, 1922, almost felt like the beginning of a script already written. The only question was whether she'd perform, but how soon she'd be pushed onto a stage. Back then, she wasn't Judy Garland yet. She was Frances Ethel Gum, a name that didn't quite carry that Hollywood sparkle. It sounded ordinary, maybe even forgettable, but behind that simple name was a life that would turn out to be anything but. What no one could see at the time, especially not a toddler, was just how heavy the cost of fame would become. By the age of 2, Frances was already performing at her father's movie theater, standing under the lights alongside her older sisters, Mary Jane and Virginia. Together, they were known as the Gum Sisters, with their mother, Ethel, playing piano to guide the act. On the surface, it looked like a childhood filled with music, applause, and bright costumes, but underneath something far more complicated was quietly taking shape. That fragile sense of normalcy didn't last long. By 1926, rumors about her father's involvement with young boys began to spread, and the whispers quickly turned into a full-blown scandal. The family tried to outrun it, relocating to Lancaster in hopes of starting fresh. But scandals like that don't just disappear. The damage followed them, settling into every corner of their lives. At home, things began to fall apart. Frances watched as her parents' marriage slowly unraveled piece by piece. But while that relationship was collapsing, her mother had already locked onto a new mission, turning her daughters into stars no matter the cost. Frances, still just a child, had very little say in any of it. Her mother controlled everything from her schedule to her image. Years later, Frances would give Ethel a chilling nickname, calling her the real Wicked Witch of the West, a label that spoke volumes about what she had endured. It was Ethel who first introduced her substances, putting her on a strict and dangerous routine designed to keep her performing at all times. Mornings came with stimulants to keep her energized, and nights ended with pills to force her to sleep. It was a cycle that didn't just steal her childhood. It quietly set the stage for lifelong struggles. For years, Frances continued performing with her sisters, but even their stage identity became a problem. The name Gum didn't exactly command attention, and at one point a theater in Chicago reportedly listed them as the Glum Sisters, a mistake that stung more than it should have. It was clear something had to change. In 1935, the group rebranded as the Garland Sisters, a name that finally carried a bit of Hollywood polish. But even within that trio, it was becoming obvious that Frances stood apart. Her voice, her presence, there was something undeniable about her. The transformation didn't stop there. Inspired by a song by Hoagy Carmichael, she adopted a new first name. Frances Gum became Judy Garland. And with that change, a star was finally beginning to take shape. Not long after, during a performance at the Orpheum Theater, someone important happened to be in the audience. Songwriter Burton Lane had been sent by MGM's powerful studio head Louis B. Mayer to scout fresh talent. As the performance unfolded, Lane's attention locked onto Judy. There was no question in his mind. She was the one worth watching. He reported back with glowing praise, and within days, Judy found herself auditioning at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. Standing in that room, she gave everything she had. Her voice carried a depth and strength that didn't seem to match her age. When she finished, the silence that followed said everything. The studio didn't hesitate. She was signed immediately, skipping the usual steps entirely. To them, she was a rare find, a diamond in the rough. But even as they celebrated, they also saw a problem. At 13, Judy didn't fit neatly into any category. She wasn't young enough to be marketed as a child star, but she wasn't mature enough for leading roles. Physically, she didn't match the polished, glamorous image the studio preferred either. Standing at just 4 feet 11 inches, she was cast into girl next door roles, a label that slowly chipped away at her confidence. The environment around her only made things worse. Studio head Louis B. Mayer reportedly referred to her as his little hunchback, a nickname that cut deep. At the studio school, she was surrounded by striking young stars like Ava Gardner and Elizabeth Taylor, constant reminders of the beauty standards she was told she didn't meet. Executives even went as far as altering her appearance, reshaping her teeth and nose in an effort to mold her into something more marketable. By the time her career began to take off, Judy wasn't just dealing with fame. She was carrying a growing sense of inadequacy that would follow her for years.